I actually think that it's easier to create success. That the worse your circumstances and the position that you're in many ways, it's a lot easier. Even though, let's say, you would think that someone that just grew up with all this money and all these resources, that person would have a higher chance of success because of where they're starting from compared to someone that has nothing and they're just down and out. I think one of the things that often is overlooked is that somebody that, let's say, grew up comfortable, easy life, everything given to them, they have all the money, they have all of that, to then create something with that is a lot more challenging because they don't have the why. They don't have the motivation. They don't have the drive. They don't have that hunger. And that's what most of success is created from, is that you have to have this drive and this hunger, this purpose for working your ass off. And when things are easy and comfortable and you have everything that you want, then it's hard to get yourself motivated. I can attest to this now, of being in a position where I have everything that I want. I don't have the same motivation that I had when I had nothing. When my back was against the wall and I was desperate, I had no choice because it was my only way of getting out of pain. And that pain became my fuel. It becomes the drive. It becomes the motivator for you. And success is not created from resources. It's created from resourcefulness. If you're resourceful enough, you find the resources, you make it happen, you do whatever it takes. And so if you look at some of the most successful people, the rags to riches, those are people that hit rock bottom. Those are people that were in the lowest points, and that drive and their circumstances is what created the drive to pull themselves out of that and to transform their life. So for me, I like being in that position, because that drive, the anger, the frustration of just not being where I wanted to be, that was tremendous in terms of creating the life that I was able to create. And I think that most success, whether you see it from these billionaires that are in the world or whatnot, I think a lot of that success is created from insecurity, scarcity, fear, trauma that they've had growing up as kids with their parents, wanting to prove themselves because they didn't get enough validation from their parents. I think a lot of success is created from people that psychologically, are not in the best place in many cases, because in many ways, if you grew up secure, and without the insecurities and whatnot, do you really have the drive to create success when you're like, oh, I don't need to prove myself, I don't need to validate myself, I don't need to make all this money to be worthy and have the world validate me. In ways yes, you can create success, but it's from a much different place. It's from a different position of creating it from. And I think that, and it's maybe from your passion or what's going to contribute the most or whatever, but I think pain is a much more powerful motivator than pleasure. And often that pain can drive people to do things that more often than not, if you're just secure, complacent, satisfied, happy in your life, maybe you're not going to have that same level of drive. Not that, again, you can't create success. I think the reason and the drive behind it is a little bit different.
Okay, so I agree with you and disagree with you on that. So I agree in the fact that there's a fire within you when you are at the bottom, that phoenix that rises from the ashes, that is a fire that you can't buy. That's a fire that just someone who grows up with a silver spoon in their mouth, they're not going to have. And that oftentimes, most of the success stories that we learn about, that's the case. We hear these stories because they're so inspirational, and they're inspirational because of what they've been through to get to where they are. But I think just because the majority of the stories that we hear about happen because of these, maybe tragic circumstances, maybe the kids, growing up in difficult situations, maybe, there's more, they develop insecure relationships, whatever it is. I don't think that makes them more successful. I actually think that this goes back to a previous episode we talked about of raising a secure child. My goal as a parent for Lucas, my first and ultimate goal is to raise a secure child in a sense where he's growing up and I'm not inflicting these traumas on him. And I'm doing my best not to shelter him, of course. I'm trying to push him to explore and to discover the world. But I'm not going to get in the way I'm going to allow him, I want him to have a secure foundation built with me, his attachment relationship with me, because human beings, we are social creatures. There's no way of refuting that. We are social creatures. Without the attachment to a caregiver, we would not survive. And so this relationship that we have together is pivotal. And so my goal is to build a solid foundation for that relationship so that he can now discover the world from a place of openness, not from a place of fear, not from a place of, oh, I'm going to, discover the world and create success because I want to prove to my parents that I can. It's from a place of, wow, what a beautiful playground I live in. Yeah. The world is my oyster. Let me discover, let me pursue things that I'm passionate about. Let me discover what I'm good at. And I think that from that place, you can create real success. Not just the financial success, but the real success where you're financially free, but you also feel amazing because you did it from that place of inspiration. And I think because so few people are secure in terms of their attachment style, most people, we're all fucked up. Most of us, we are, because, partly because of how we're raised, and we can't blame our parents because you can only do so much with what you know, and that's fine. And I think, yes, it fuels us to create success, but I think it's very different when you come from that place of where you truly are. Now, it's different than what you were mentioning before, where you're growing up and your success is handed down to you. That's different because there's a lot of kids who grow up in very rich families, and the family business is passed down to them, but they've got their own traumas with their parents. Their parents weren't available for them because they were so focused on building that family legacy. So these are all different circumstances.
I think like what I'm trying to get to is, I think that when you have within yourself, I'm not good enough, I'm not enough, that's a very powerful drive and motivator that manifests itself in people believing, especially in our society that conditions, programs us, that the way to become enough is through materialism, money, social media, followers, etc. And that if you grow up without that, I am enough.
Yes.
Then you're not like, how many people on social media, really are just, doing things, saying things, trying to be a certain way because of I'm not good enough, that deep insecurity that they have within themselves. It's like most human beings, because most people were not secure kids growing up. They didn't, we all have obviously different degrees of insecurities. And it's not that a kid who is grown up secure and everything doesn't have any insecurities. But I think that's such a powerful force that drives people. And I think if you were secure and happy and just, grew up in a really good upbringing and whatnot, your definition of success is going to be different. You might
it's
not.
a holistic definition of success.
You're not going to feel
it's
like
our definition of success.
You're not going to feel like I need to make all this money. I need to have all these followers. I need to be really
good.
How all the designer clothes and cars and all of that. Because often I think that's overcompensation for insecurities that you see in the world, rather than hey, you know what? This is my passion. This is actually what I want to do. These are my gifts. I want to be a musician. I want to be an artist. And maybe that doesn't create financial wealth, but oftentimes I think there are people that have created success financially or through their quality of life and happiness and whatnot, but it's just, regardless of what the world thinks, they're doing it because that's what their passion and what their gift and what they want to create and share with the world,
for
regardless
that reason,
of what people think.
And for that reason, they wake up every day joyous.
Yes.
And that is success.
And they don't care whether or not other people view them and perceive them as, oh, you're a success or you're a failure because of what you're doing for a career. They're a secure, confident person doesn't really care for that because they're happy doing what they're doing, living their life how they want to live it.
Because their confidence is stemming from within, not from the exterior, from the outside world.
Yeah.
Well, let's give an example. Lucas, okay? Mm-hmm. Lucas is really thriving as a baby. He's almost 1 year old now. And he's far beyond all of these, milestones, and that's great. And that's all on him. But now he's thriving because when babies come into this world, they are that open book. They're here to discover, to learn. There's a sparkle in their eye because they are so eager to have this adventure of life. And so they come here very capable of learning. The brain of a baby is incredible, how quickly they grow, how much they learn. If you expose a baby to any language during the infancy stage, during the I don't know, first year or so of their life, they can learn multiple languages simultaneously. Can any one of us do that? That's incredible what they're capable of doing. So their capabilities are virtually unmatched. And what happens is when they come into this world, they are this open book that has a lot of potential. And Lucas is continuing to thrive because has a perfect environment for him so that he can thrive. His needs are being met, his emotional needs are being met, and so he is now confident to conquer the world. Now, if we look at another child who's in a different circumstance, say their parents are not available or their primary caregivers, whoever that may be, are emotionally unavailable. They are feeling this sense of, they're not feeling attached to anyone. So there's a sense of insecurity within them. When they feel this sense of insecurity, they're no longer able to move forward into the world with confidence. Now they're focused on how can I become more secure? They're focused on how can I ensure that their relationship with my caregiver is secure? So they're preoccupied and they can't thrive in the same ways that they should. They don't developmentally hit their milestones on time. They aren't able to maybe laugh as much and smile as much. So they're more preoccupied, more nervous, more anxious. That's not the natural state of the baby. So when they are secure, they are now in a place where they can really thrive. And that's why I believe that a child who grows up secure into an adult who's secure, they're going to be creating success much more easily than someone who isn't. Even though they don't have that fire, I think that they will create true success in their lives from that place.
Yeah, I think they're not in that survival mode that many people will be in. And that's kind of when you're at a higher level of consciousness. Yeah, you're not as preoccupied with survival and you don't have those fears of how can I survive, that primitive aspect of ourselves that can drive us through fear to feel like, we need to be secure, we need to, have enough or whatever. And if you already, are at a higher level of consciousness, then you can create without that fear. You can create, you can do, you can experience without that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.